Akira, Chrono Trigger, Berserk, Final Fantasy, Dragon Ball Z, Ocarina of Time, Princess Mononoke, Naruto, Dark Souls, Attack on Titan, Persona, Demon Slayer, Elden Ring. Every year for as long as I can remember, some piece of Japanese media, whether that's an anime, movie, or video game, has captivated the world. At this point, I almost feel like it's clockwork. Like it's inevitable that this time next year, I'll be binge watching a new series on Netflix the same way I binge watched Cheat yesterday. But why? How can Japan so frequently put out such great art and at such scale? How does Japan create its artists, then empower them to execute their unique visions? Before I get into my hypothesis, let me state the obvious. Japan doesn't have a monopoly on artistic excellence. My favorite movie is Alien, which is a British-American film. My favorite song is Oblivion, which was written by Canadian singer-songwriter Grimes. And the best video game I've played in the past 5 years, maybe more, is Expedition 33, which was developed in France. I'm not saying that Japan creates the best media, or that the rest of the world isn't also capable of creating equally powerful stories. I do think, however, that Japan creates its stories differently, and that's what I'd like to talk about today. I'd like to present a theory on how Japan may inadvertently foster genius. The first time I was inspired by art to think, to question things, was when I was 11 years old, when one of my friends played Eminem's My Name Is. Up until that point, most of the music I had heard was either golden oldies that my parents were listening to, or generic pop on the safe radio stations. Songs like Quit Playing Games With My Heart by the Backstreet Boys, or My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. So when I first heard Eminem say, "Hi kids, do you like violence? Want to see me stick 9-inch nails through each one of my eyelids?" I was shocked. Shocked into listening to more. Well, since age 12, I felt like someone else, because I hung my original self from the top bunk with a belt. Just found out that my mom does more dope than I do. Told her I'd grow up to be a famous rapper, make a record about doing drugs and name it after her. Those lyrics made me think. They made me rethink the music I had been listening to. Those other songs, they were well written and well performed. The Backstreet Boys and Celine Dion are fantastic singers, but suddenly their songs felt somewhat hollow, as if they had been created on an assembly line, or just reorganized, repurposed, rewrapped, and then presented to the public once more. On the other hand, Eminem's music, it felt real. Disturbing, no doubt, but real. It made me realize, oh, this person isn't like the others, or me, or any of my friends for that matter. He's got real problems. Poverty, abuse, drug addiction, violence, extreme instability. Of course, those things are what gave his music such depth. He was able to write such visceral lyrics because he lived through that struggle. And I think this is true for all great art, that it's inspired by struggle. I think this is why Kevin Hart's Laugh at My Pain set hits so hard, because it's inspired by his own struggles, such as growing up with or without a coke-addicted father. I think it's why Oblivion is such an incredible song, because it's about Grimes' experience with sexual assault. And I think it's why J.R.R. Tolkien could create such a compelling tale of good versus evil, because he served as a soldier in World War I. Of course, Japanese people, just like people everywhere else, deal with every sort of tragedy. But at first glance, things in Japan seem pretty good. Japan has the world's highest life expectancy, one of the smallest wealth gaps, and especially compared to a place like the US, very little crime. There's no gang violence or school shootings or opioid crisis. And yet, Chainsaw Man, Vinland Saga, Oyasumi Pum Pum. Again, Japan consistently puts out some of the most nuanced and thought-provoking stories of our time. Which begs the question, is there some kind of unique struggle here? Something that perhaps the Japanophiles are missing? How can such a seemingly stable society continue to put out such incredible, painful art? Personally, I think the answer lies both in and in spite of this very stability. What are some of the defining characteristics of Japanese society? Diligence, low risk tolerance, and putting the needs of the group above your own. I talk about this at length in this video, but I believe that these things, these traditions and beliefs, are a sort of survival mechanism. Every generation, for as long as there are records, there has been at least one, if not multiple earthquakes that completely upended the country. Look at just the past 15 years. In 2011, the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami hit. In 2016, we had the Kumamoto earthquake, which was devastating not only for that prefecture, but even for the prefecture I live, the next one over, Oita. My wife's workplace got destroyed from that earthquake. And at the beginning of 2024, the Noto earthquake hit, wreaking havoc across an entire peninsula. I believe this constant threat, as well as the lack of natural resources, is largely why Japanese culture is the way it is. When it's peaceful, things have to be done carefully and people have to work hard because the next disaster is always just around the corner. You have to prioritize the needs of the group, get the people around you on your side because they're your only safety net when that disaster inevitably strikes. This is why in Japan, I'm going to say it, deru kugi wa utareru. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Because in order for things to run smoothly here, traditionally speaking, everyone needs to be in their place working hard. There's no room for slacking or deviating from the group effort to do your own thing. And many Japanese people do get a strong sense of fulfillment, not by pursuing their own unique vision, but by finding their place on a team. Many other Japanese people, however, are not like this. Many Japanese people do have a unique vision. And for them, Japanese society can often be suffocating. About 7 years ago, I took a personality test that revealed that I'm high in openness, the personality trait associated with art and aesthetics. The same test also revealed that I'm above average in conscientiousness, the trait associated with hard work. So it's probably not a complete coincidence that I ended up doing this. I like creative endeavors, writing and editing videos, and I have just enough drive to do that work when no one else is watching, when I could be playing video games. That being said, I also think I ended up doing this because of my cultural background. Growing up in the United States, I was always told, follow your heart. You can make your dreams come true. Even if you shoot for the moon and miss, you'll land among the stars. I highly doubt that if I was Japanese, even with the same personality traits, that I would have been willing to take that bet. Because my whole life, I would have had people telling me, stay in line, take the safe bet. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. I've experienced this even as an outsider, as an American in Japan. During study abroad, I had the very unique opportunity to meet and speak extensively with the singer of the punk rock band that inspired me to study Japanese when I was 13. It was one of the most meaningful and profound experiences that I've ever had, and I walked away from that experience knowing what I wanted to do in life, knowing that I wanted to become a writer. But when I told my best Japanese friend what had happened, that this is now the path that I wanted to pursue, they just looked me in the eye and said, "Dame. それやめた方がいい." As if pursuing my dreams was obviously a fool's errand. You see, in Japan, to take risks, to deviate from the norm, to give up a spot at Waseda University to pursue manga, or leave a position at Toyota to develop an indie game, it's not nearly enough to be high in openness and above average in conscientiousness. That's not enough to be the nail that sticks out, to be able to withstand the constant beating that society will give you. You have to be off the charts in those traits to even accept the challenge. But those individuals do exist. And when you take someone like that, someone who's decided to dedicate a decade of their life to storytelling and subject them to non-stop alienation, you inadvertently give them the last piece of the puzzle. Because telling someone day in and day out that they're wasting their time, that they're too self-centered, that they need to settle down, get a real job, get back in line, and start living a normal life. That's more than enough struggle, more than enough pain and suffering to create great art. And the more you distance those individuals from the tribe, the more likely you make them to express their art in its fullest, those deep, dark emotions, without a filter, without having to worry about the fear of blowback. Ironically, I also think it's this group-first mentality that makes it possible for this great art to be produced at such scale here. Hideo Kojima has said that he had no friends at university that were interested in cinema to encourage him, or supportive of his decision to get into gaming. During the early years of his career, he often lied about his profession because of the flack he got for deviating from the norm, for not being in a proper industry like finance. At a wedding reception, the other guest laughed when the groom introduced him by saying, "Kojima is a nice and talented person, but for some reason he joined a video game company." I think many people revere Hayao Miyazaki and Hideo Kojima and Hidetaka Miyazaki among the many other visionaries, not just for their remarkable art, but also because people recognize the struggle that those individuals went through in order to bring their art to life here. I feel like many people, often extremely talented artists in their own right, line up to work with, to do overtime with visionaries like that because it gives them a sense of hope. It makes them feel like in a society where everyone is relegated to a cog in the system, they can be that and at the same time so much more. Not just a number on a spreadsheet, but the stroke of a beautiful painting, the crescendo of a dramatic battle theme, or the beat-up scarred sword of a hero. This is my theory on why Japan can so consistently create such incredible art and at such scale. The society automatically filters out anyone without the extreme creativity and work ethic necessary to even accept the challenge, forces the individuals who commit to that journey through a gauntlet of alienation, leveling up their arcane, then rewards those who make it out the other side with an army of crucible knights. This is, however, just a general theory. Of course, there are many artists in Japan who struggled not with alienation, but, for example, the unexpected loss of a loved one, or sexual assault, or the aforementioned extremely frequent natural disasters, or a combination of these hardships. Likewise, there are many artists who are able to flourish specifically because they were raised in an environment conducive to creativity. But after living here for 15 years, I tend to think that those individuals, the ones who succeeded specifically because of support and encouragement, are in the minority. That most of the creators of the manga, movies, and video games we so desperately love ended up in their positions not because they were born into a village that rushed to their support, but because of the opposite. Because they trained through the pain of being shunned by that village, which ironically made them the strongest and most respected members of all.